My name is Mandy. I am the Handmade Homeschooler. If it is your first time here, welcome, and welcome back if it is not your first time here. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button because it does really help me out. So today we're going to be talking about why, as somebody who has a bachelor's degree in education and who has worked in the education field for years, why me and my husband personally chose homeschool. And although I have a reasons why I homeschool video on my channel, I thought as the times have changed as well, because that video was, I think, back in 2016. It was our first year of homeschooling. I want to kind of update that video, and I want to give other reasons why we still homeschool to this day. So let's call this reasons why I still homeschool and why I would probably never put my kids back into public school. And I'm saying that as an educator, and I'm saying that as somebody who has worked in the education field. So I have notes here. If you see me looking down, remember I am not a professional YouTuber. I'm just a mom. So one of the first reasons is bullying. This was something that I experienced as a kid. I was overweight as a kid. I'm short, so me being short and being chubby was really rough, especially in middle school. And although I don't have that problem today, I really struggled, and my biggest struggle was because I was on medication that made it impossible for me to lose weight, and it actually forced me to gain weight. And although the kids at school did not understand that or really care about that, I experienced a lot of bullying. My son, my oldest, who actually was in public school for several years before we pulled him out, he was experiencing bullying as well. And although it wasn't for the same reasons, it was really hard watching him go through that. And we saw our kid kind of slowly change as the bullying increased. And that, as a parent, is heartbreaking. So bullying is one of the biggest reasons why we really started considering homeschooling in the first place, and it's one of the reasons why I will still homeschool. Number two, and this is something I really noticed in high school, the values that I was being taught in school were completely different than the values I was being taught at home. And I'm sure that some of you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You learn one way or another, whether it's through example or through outright teaching, you will learn some kind of value system in school. No matter what teacher it is, they have some kind of bias one way or the other. That's just the way that it is. We all have biases as people. And what I was being taught at school was completely opposite of what I was being taught in my Christian home. And as a teenager, that's really conflicting, especially when you are, going through those very trying years as a high schooler. That was really hard for me because I was wondering who was right. Are my teachers and my friends right, or are my parents right? And is the church right? You have to make those decisions for yourself. And I really think that that's really difficult for kids. I know I struggled, and although it worked out for me, the rate, you guys can look this up, the statistics show that kids who go into high school and college who are, who say that they're a Christian, is very few that come out that way when college is over, especially college. So look into those numbers, it's frightening. Okay, next is cultivating interests. So my kids, we get to really cultivate their interests here at home, and that's something that I love. They get to really explore things in depth. Like my youngest, he's really into animals, and right now his thing is ocean animals and fish. So we are going into like a whole unit study. If you guys saw my 4th grade pics, you guys know that we're doing Apologia swimming creatures, and he's like super excited about it. So we get to cultivate those interests, and they get to really find and explore things that they're really interested in. My oldest, right now it's engineering. So that's something that we get to really do. And my interests were never really cultivated in school because, there's just so many of us, right? How in the world are they going to cultivate the individual interests of each child? It's impossible. So this kind of goes with it. Especially in high school, you are pushed into college so fast before you even know what you want to do. And that was my problem. I went into education because I didn't know what else to do, honestly. The only thing I really wanted to be, and I really never said it out loud because I knew how it would sound to my teachers and my parents. I just wanted to be a wife and mom. I thought education was probably the closest to that because at least I would be working with kids. But really in my heart, all I wanted to be was a mom and a wife. And in our culture, especially, with, how feminism is today, that's really looked down upon. You are looked at like you have no ambition or you're lazy. And I'm sorry if that really offends anybody, but I mean, even in the late 90s, that's the way that it was, unfortunately. And I was pushed into a career field when, one, I really didn't want to do it, and two, I wasn't that interested in it, and three, I couldn't afford it. So I had college debt that I brought into my marriage, and I had to pay it off. And actually, that's how my store got created, was because I needed to pay off my bachelor degree. So, they really don't have the same values, and you're pushed into things. And now I have a degree in something that I don't really use, because when it comes to homeschooling, a degree in education is kind of, I don't want to say worthless. I do not want to say worthless. However, it doesn't really help me the way that I wish that it did. And what I do now, I actually work in the tech field, and I work in the business field. So really, if I should have gotten a degree, it should have been in something like analysis, data, or graphic design rather than education. It's just the way that it is. All right, I'm gonna have to go a little bit quicker because I'm running out of time here. So help from teachers, that's a big one. I am not good at math, if you guys have not noticed from my other videos, which is why we do teaching textbooks. I really struggled in math through every phase of my education, all the way from elementary, all the way up through college. I really struggled. I actually had to take a remedial course in the beginning of my college years because I struggled. And finding help was so hard unless you hired a tutor, because there are so many kids per classroom. It is almost impossible for that teacher to help each individual student. And my son was having this problem as well when he was in 2nd and 3rd grade. He's kind of like me. Math really isn't his strong point. Well, it wasn't until we did teaching textbooks, and now it's actually his favorite subject. No lie there. He said that they would have to wait in a line, and he was coming home telling me, like, I waited in a line for a half hour and I never got the help that I needed. But they were teaching Common Core. I don't know Common Core math, and I know a lot of you probably don't either. So it was hard for me to help him at home because I didn't know how they were teaching it at school. So, that's really a big, big thing for me. Next one is violence. My school, especially my high school and my middle school both, where they were huge on the fights. The violence in my high school and my middle school was out of control. And I know it's probably a lot for the same of you guys, for you guys. I know it was for my husband. He's from South Florida. High school violence is just almost like a cultural norm in our society. And I remember being scared. Columbine happened when I was in 9th grade, and I remember being terrified, you guys. I was so scared. And now kids today go through these drills for active shooters and everything else. Oh my gosh, my heart. When my preschooler came home and told me about it, and because they had a drill, I could not bear it. And that was the year that we pulled the plug and said, we're gonna homeschool. The violence is honestly sickening to me, and I'm sure it probably is for you guys. So another big reason why I homeschool is because education is, in my opinion, a lot of education, they are teaching to pass tests. And I think that is just craziness. They are not educating children to educate the person, kind of like Charlotte Mason says, you know, we need to educate and cultivate that person. They are educating the students to pass tests. And I know that my state for high school, Florida, was big on this because I don't know if every state is like this, but I know in Florida they have to have school grades, and the school is basically graded upon how well the kids pass these yearly exams and tests. I know a lot of states are like that. I'm not sure if every state is, but they would spend so much of the academic year on teaching us how to pass the test rather than things for that actual subject that we were in. And it was just so frustrating. And for me, I think that that's crazy. I really do think that that's crazy. We should be learning and teaching our children not how to pass a test, but we should be teaching them that subject. Why are we teaching kids to pass tests and exams for the school rather than educating them? Does anybody else find that insane? Lastly, I was not salt and light. I was a Christian kid, but I was not salt and light. One, and I know that this is going to make a lot of people angry, and I'm sorry if I offend you. That is not my intention. But as a Christian teenage girl in high school, if anything, I was ill-equipped to be salt and light, because as a teenager, I should still be learning. I should not be an evangelist. Kids are not evangelists. And we need to stop putting that pressure on them and making the excuse to send our kids to public school because they're going to be salt and light. I didn't convert anybody. If anything, those kids rubbed off on me, and I had bad behavior because I was acting like my friends, because I was a typical teenager who was around other teenagers. The salt and light argument honestly just doesn't work. As a Christian girl who went through high school and college, it doesn't work. If anything, you end up compromising your own morals as a Christian kid when you're in that type of setting. So if anybody else agrees with me, pop that down below, because I hope I really didn't offend anybody. But for me, that's how it was. Alright guys, so before this video gets way too long, I'm going to end it here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop it down below. And again, I apologize if anything that I said is offensive to you. That is not my intention, but these are just my opinions. So I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.